Well, Shabbat Shalom. I just want to say that we have the great good fortune tonight after services to be able to share this beautiful space with BBYO. We are the location for the Jewish youth group meetup, I guess, for kids and parents of this area. So we wanted to stick to a good schedule so that we could actually welcome the kids in, not in the middle of this service. So I chose to say something tonight about our Torah portion that is something short, but I hope really meaningful. This will be a Devar Torah, literally a word of Torah, because I want to focus a little bit on the Torah portion with the backdrop of our crazy world out there. It's there and it doesn't go away, and we read these words always in our own context, finding meaning, but I want to actually focus a little bit on the Torah portion tonight, which is Vayishlach. And some of you have said you want to hear more about Torah. So here's Torah. Vayishlach is the Torah portion in Genesis, of course. We're still near the beginning of our people's story, where Jacob and Esau meet up again. You'll recall that when Jacob stole the birthright from Esau, he took off, and these brothers have not seen each other now for quite a long time. And you can imagine the amount of tension and stress in expecting to encounter one another again, or for Jacob, expecting to encounter his brother Esau. And as they find out that this huge encampment is coming towards him, Jacob doesn't know what to make of this situation. Is he in mortal danger, or what's going to happen when the brothers see each other? That's kind of a teaser for Torah study tomorrow morning. I don't know if you're going to look at the word that has the dots over it. It's prominent. No, okay, so you can all call me. There's a word in the Torah portion when the brothers connect with each other and weep and then kiss. They embrace each other. And there are these dots that appear over the word, whether it's in the actual written Sefer Torah or in most of our Chumashim. It calls attention to that word, and nobody seems to know what it really meant. But it calls attention to the possibility of reaching out in our crazy world to encounter someone that seemed impossible to be in contact with. So just after this happens between the brothers, Jacob wrestles with an angel. You'll remember this story if you've read the Torah before. If not, come tomorrow morning at 9:15. And as Jacob is wrestling with the angel, he asks for a blessing. The angel touches Jacob's hip. And so, did you know that's why we don't eat filet mignon? I'm serious. That's why, because we can't eat that part of no filet mignon. There is no such thing as kosher filet mignon, because we can't eat from the hip area to honor and recognize that when Jacob and the angel wrestled and the angel touched there, that spot is off limits. The hip is changed. And so is Jacob. His name is changed to Yisrael. He goes from being Jacob to Yisrael, and of course we are all of us the children of Yisrael, of the 12 tribes, the 12 sons, and the daughter of Jacob, of Israel, of Yisrael, which means literally wrestling with God. So we don't know exactly who the angel was or where the angel came from, but because of this incredible name change, we know that there was something sacred about this encounter that takes place in this fuzzy space. As we talked about, those of you who were at Torah study with me last week, we talked about the fuzzy space of the dream, of the angels going up and down the sulam, the ladder, and what it means to be in that place that we can't exactly identify, but we kind of have in a dream space. So Rabbi Altshuler and I had the great privilege yesterday to hear from Rabbi Delphine Horviller. Is that how you? Horviller. She's French. She's one of 3 women rabbis in France. She's a Reform rabbi. She's really quite extraordinary. She's an influencer. Oh, you might know her. Do you actually know her?
I've been to her synagogue.
Is she amazing in person? She seemed pretty cool yesterday as she was talking to us. She speaks a whole bunch of languages. She writes a whole bunch of articles, books. She's an influencer on Jewish thought. Yes, there is also a TV show that is based on her. She's really cool. She and her husband are raising 3 kids in this crazy world, and her husband actually is a really interesting Israeli-French economist who is the mayor of the 4th arrondissement, which I understand includes Le Marais. Okay, so that's all the French are going to get. I know, is that crazy? It's true. So they're a Jewish power couple in Paris, and she began her talk at the very beginning. She was asked to talk about Jewish identity and Jewish identity in a world which is really challenging from the perspective of someone in France, in Europe, which is not an easy place to be Jewish right now. And she began by commenting on this week's Torah portion, appropriate for a rabbi, and she talked about what it means to be a people that's limping, which I thought was such a beautiful way of phrasing what she was taking from this Torah portion, a people that wrestled with God and continued to wrestle, but came out of the wrestling not only changed and alive, but limping. She talked about existential fragility that comes from that, an awareness of our humanness and of our vulnerabilities. And she talked about what that's helped to create or done for us over the time as we've developed as a people, learning to live in a world where we can navigate through the awareness of our fragility. It reminded me of the Shel Silverstein book many of you may have read called The Missing Piece. Have you seen that book? So it's a book essentially about a circle that loses a little piece. And as this little piece falls out of the circle limps. The circle goes down the hill. The circle goes a lot of places, but it wobbles just a little bit because it's not quite round. It's missing just a little piece. And the beauty of the experience of the circle comes from actually this missing piece, which comes to define it and comes to help the circle be aware of its place in the world and all the places that it's going. As I listened to this rabbi yesterday, I was thinking a little bit about that story, about what it means for us to be so aware of our vulnerability, of our fragility that comes from us as the limping people. What do we do with this? What do we do as a people who for thousands of years has experienced vulnerability and finds ourselves in a place now that feels even more vulnerable? We're not sure what Jewish identity means. And from her perspective, she focused on the need to cope with that. She talked about the possibility of us being, as she said, quote unquote, again in a time of Hasidism. What does she mean by that? At the time of Hasidut coming to be part of our understanding, the world was such that the Jewish people, or the people who were Kabbalists who created Hasidut, were focusing on stories. We're focusing on what took them out of the reality of day-to-day life and into a place where they could think about dveikut, about connection with God, with something far outside of the daily realities of life. They put themselves in the space of stories and told stories that have come to be passed down to all of us, where we can understand a place of holiness or a place of connection, a place of sacredness within ourselves and within each other, even as the world is crazy. We've heard some of those stories about young children being able to be heard by God because their tunes are so sacred. We've heard stories about what it means when somebody in a community can actually find holiness when they seem to be outside of the realm of holiness. And these stories, these historic stories that came out of the original Hasidism, take us out of earthly concerns. They are stories that continue to inspire and educate us because they help us find meaning in our own experiences and in the search for something holy, even when the world feels overwhelming. I love her suggestion that perhaps it's time for a new Hasidism. Perhaps in the world in which we live, the best way to be able to tolerate our existential vulnerability, this limpingness that is our people, that sometimes in the world feels too vulnerable, that sometimes in the world feels like we don't know exactly how to navigate the world when it kind of feels closing in on us or things feel scary. Our ancestors taught us about going into a place where the imaginary realm of connecting with the divine was our salvation. It's getting outside of the day-to-day and allowing ourselves, especially on Shabbat, 25 hours of imagining a different world, of really placing ourselves in that different world and getting a rest from reality. And so I wish us all a Shabbat of rest, of peace, and also maybe of the beginnings of a new Hasidism, a new way to continue to believe and to connect with each other and with God outside of the reality of our own world, just for a little time. Shabbat Shalom.